I wrote a book. I put a book together quite a few years ago called The Matrix of Power, just before the movie came out. I was in Hollywood at the time, and I was giving a lot of lectures at studios, at the motion picture studios, about Matrix and about the occult world that we live in, all the secrets, dark stuff that's going on the earth today. And I used to give lectures at studios, at the motion picture studios, in the evening, at night. I would go in at night and they'd give me a pass, and I could go in and sit and put up a screen and a slide presentation. I talk about the Illuminati and secret societies and the religions of the world, etc. And so I was talking in Hollywood for a long time. And finally, now today, after 60 years, it's finally out there everywhere around the world now. Everywhere you turn, there's all kinds of programs and movies and books, TV shows, talking about the secret societies and the occult world. The very word occult simply means hidden. It's a word which simply means hidden. So if you put your hand in your pocket, dictionary definition is your hand is occult because it's hidden. And so it doesn't mean it's evil or bad. It just means you don't see it. It's hidden. And the reason why it's hidden, because like the scriptures has Jesus saying, you look with your eyes, but you don't see. Mm-hmm. You listen with your ears, but you don't hear. And with your heart, you don't get the sense of it. So you don't see it. You don't see things going on around you. But the reason why you don't see things is because most people don't want to see. They choose not to see. And one political pundit said, it's very difficult to get people to understand something that their salary and their job depends on them not seeing. Mm. So as long as when you're in a company and you are being paid and you've got a nice position with a PhD and you're driving a fancy car and living well, it doesn't do you very much good to realize the situation you're in is a criminal syndicate. And so most people don't want to see. They're not interested. And the other thing I would say, too, is that I learned something in the past 60 years of doing the things I do. I have learned a secret, and it's a very deep secret most people would never thought of. And that is people will always support what they want. They will not support what they don't want.
Right.
People will pay money to go to a restaurant they like and the food they like. They will not buy food and go to a place where they don't like. People will go to stores to buy clothes that they want and they want to wear. They will not pay money to support a store with clothes they don't like. Right. And so people will pay money and support what they want to eat, what they want to wear, what they want to hear. And that's why the churches tell the people what they want to hear. They will not tell them the truth, because one thing we have learned over thousands of years that generally speaking is true, that most people do not want to hear the truth.
Right. Yeah. Well, the part of what you're saying, Jordan, if I may interrupt, that's a little scary to me is if this occult world, right, the Illuminati, the powers that be, whether they're human or not human, that do indeed run this world, they can pay for what they want to have happen. Is that true?
That's correct. That's right. It's a golden rule. He who has the goal makes the rules. And so we all humans want to have control over their environment. All people want to have things done their way. And that's where you have problems when you're in a big company. You know, one guy wants to do it this way and he wants to do it that way and she wants to do it this way. And the boss says he wants to do it his way. And so, but it's the people who have the money, have the power to make the world do what they want to do. And so they don't care. People with power, we've learned that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the people who have the big money will get what they want. They'll buy it.
Right.
And when we talk about people with big money, we're not talking about the Rockefellers. I'm not talking about the Rothschilds. Those people are not the important people.
Wow.
There are the real powers behind the world we live in. You will never know who they are. You will never hear their names, and you will never know what they're doing. They're far, far more frightening and powerful than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Those are just middle managements. The real scary thing is who's really behind human life on this earth, which then, of course, brings in the question, well, where did we come from and who are we anyway? Mm-hmm. Where do humans come from? Mm-hmm. And how did we get here? Yeah. I think, and I've talked to so many people in my life about this subject, and this is why I always say, and it's appropriate for me to say it now too, that I am not the world's foremost authority on anything. I have never presented myself to be an authority at all. I feel better by saying that I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. Mm-hmm. I've always been interested in wisdom and knowledge and secrets and understanding of the way the world works. But I'm not an authority.
And I love the way that it started for you, because I was a young Catholic girl who had, a little girl who had a feeling that there was really something shifty going on in church and in Catholic school. But when you started, you actually spoke to the bishop, right? Can you tell us about that? That was amazing.
Yeah, it was funny because I was born and raised into a very, very Catholic family. I mean, they were very devout Catholics, and everybody in town knew who we were. And in the Catholic Church, when a child, boy or girl, reaches about 9 or 10 years old, they have a special celebration in church for the young children. And it's called confirmation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
It's a confirmation service, which means a bishop, some high official in the church, will talk to the children and explain to them that you are Catholic, and we're going to make sure you stay a Catholic. We're confirming you to be a Catholic. And so we were told in the school by nuns, the nuns in the Catholic school, incidentally, the word nun means a fish in Hebrew. Goodness. A nun is a fish. And so we were told by the nuns that tomorrow night in church for you children, there's going to be a confirmation service. And perhaps, maybe, the bishop might ask you questions and ask you if you have any questions about your faith now that you're officially Catholic. And if the bishop asks you that, if you have any questions, just remember you don't ask any question. You keep your mouth shut.
Right.
And so I thought, you're not talking to me. So, good luck with me. Huh? Yeah, good luck with me. Yeah. And so that next night after the service was over, the bishop was there. And of course, because the bishop was at the church, everybody, all the Catholics in town seemed like were there. And so after the service was over, the bishop said, if any of you children have questions, I'll try and answer them for you now that you're officially a Catholic. And so I stood up. I wanted to make sure everybody in the church knew who I am. And I stood up so everybody could see who I am. And I said, yes, I have a question for you, Bishop. I said, my father works with torches like a welder. And I said, he's let me play with torches sometimes. And I know what torches can do. And I said, if there was an angel standing next to me, could I take a torch and burn him? Would it hurt him if I hit him with a torch? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said something to the effect that you have to have, as a natural phenomenon, you have to have wood or plastic or paper or something to burn, but you can't burn an angel. And I said, why not? And he said, because you can't even see an angel, much less burn an angel. There's nothing there to burn. And I said, I don't understand. He said, angels are spirits, and you cannot burn a spirit. And I said, well, if I can't burn a spirit, why am I worried about going to hell where my spirit will burn if you can't burn a spirit?
Amen.
And he looked at me like a deer in the headlights.
That is so
I never heard such a profound question out of a 9-year-old. You know? And so
I bet the nuns were like,
yeah. Everybody in the church, nobody knew where did that come from.
wow.
We never thought about that. And so I decided at that time, and I was told by a Catholic priest that was standing near, he said to me in front of everyone, he said, you sit down and shut up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, Jordan, I remember when I was preparing for confirmation, right?
Yeah.
We would go, because I went to Catholic school my whole life. We would go and, you know, we would recite things like, you know, I am in the army of God, you know, I will defeat Satan in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. And then the bishop came and we had to go to the altar and kiss his ring.
Yeah.
And even as a little 9-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl, however old I was, there was something in my gut that said to me, this is so not correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Me too.
Oh, my goodness.
And so after that, I started dropping pieces of Alka-Seltz on the holy water. And watch watch the adults flip out. The Lord is here. It's bubbling. You know?
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
And so I began to realize that the adults are nothing more than children that have grown up.
Yes.
They were little, know that they were even alive. They're just little kids that don't know anything. Their bodies have grown up and become adults. Their brains are still the little children who don't even know they're alive.
Right.
And so many adults are just oblivious to the world around them.
Just on the hamster wheel that they were spoon-fed.
That's right.
Right? So when we're born, are we not sold to a corporation?
Say that again.
When we're born and we have a birth certificate, aren't we sold to a corporation?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Let me explain how this works. Your body is a corporation. Your physical body of your husband or your children and yourself, you are a corporation. And the reason why you know this is happening is because if I see you come out of a restaurant one night with a particular guy and I say to you the next day, you know that guy you were with last night? Yeah, he's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. We're getting married and we're going to be partners.
Right.
Bad company, business, partner, that sounds like commerce. It sounds like business. And thank God it's none of my business who you're with. But you are a business. You are a corporation. And the other person is a corporation. And if you're going to be partners, well, Ford and General Electric can do business together if they want. Wow. But it's a business, so you better get a license because now you're doing business with two corporations doing business. So it's a business license. And that's why if you're going to get married, you're going to be partners. You're going to be in business with somebody else.
And you get a marriage.
I say, thank God it's none of my business, but it's your problem. It's your business. But if your business does not work out, you're not going to God. You're going to court and bring your money and your house and everything you've got in the world, bring it to court because it's nothing but a business.
Right.
So if you look in a law dictionary, not a regular dictionary, the law dictionary, look up the word commerce and Congress and commerce. Those words in actual law mean sex. Commerce is referred to in law as sex. It's just a business. Thank God it's none of my business.
Wow.
But it is a business. Sex is referred to in law as a business.
Wow.
And so you have an affair. Well, that's what it is. It's a business affair.
Oh,
and so it's none of my business and none of your business, but sex is a business. And why? Because you are a corporation, he's a corporation. And so you have two businesses coming together. And as I said, whoever it is, it's none of my business. And you say, mind your own business. And so whatever you produce as a corporation is owned by the person who gave you the license, because they are obviously in a superior position. They gave you the license.
Right.
And a license is something that gives you permission to do something that without that license would be unlawful. So you cannot get married without a license because it's a business. And because the state gives you the license, they are in the business with you. They run the business. They'll tell you what you can do and what you can't do. When you have children, you need to understand the way marriage works. The male manufactures. The woman is in labor, building the product. So this is why we have the word manufacture, because the man is manufacturing. The man manufactures. And the woman is in labor. She's in labor building the product.
Wow. For
the man. And so it's all very interesting the way the world really works.
Well, who owns all these corporations, if you will?
The Vatican. The Vatican is the bottom line on the earth today. All roads lead to Rome. And if you go back 2,000 years, Rome, the ancient Roman Empire under the Caesars, Rome ruled the world of that time. The whole of the Middle East and the whole of Europe was under the domination of Rome.
Right.
And it's still today under the domination of Rome. We still have the Pontifex Maximus Caesar in Rome, and he is Caesar. You will see all the nations of the world, all the countries of the world, communist, Nazi, all the big corporate heads, all the most important people in the world eventually go to Rome and kneel before the Pope and kiss his ring. Why? Because he is the Holy Father and he is connected to God. So he's the Godfather. Get it? So he's Godfather. And this is where the mafiosi gets the idea of the family. Because the Godfather is over the family, and you better listen to him first. Whatever it is you're going to do, you better check with him first.
Right.
Because he calls the shots on the earth.
Right.
I've done some research on this marriage license.
Yeah.
And even in the federal statute, it says clearly that when a marriage license is issued, you enter into a business relationship between three different entities: the man, the woman, and the state. And the state becomes 1/3 ownership of everything that you produce. And that is why that the state can come in and take your children away from you. They can shut down bank accounts. They can go foreclose, because when you have it together, then they have authority over what you produced.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly how it works. Why? We're just talking business.
Yeah.
We're just talking money. It's a what is it? Supply and demand. The woman supplies something to the man he's looking for, and the man supplies something to the woman she's looking for. It's just a business. Thank God it's none of my business, but
yeah,
that's what it is. It's a business. And so it's very interesting when you see, here's how you need to understand this. Here's the basis for it. When this country, the United States of America, was officially founded as a republic back in 1770s and 1780s, the United States was called the United States of America. And that was in the 1780s, and we were a republic. But after the Civil War, here in this country, we were many things, but united was not one of them. We were not united. One half of this country had killed the other half. And there was a war between the North and the South, and I mean a real war, a bloody one. And so we were no longer a United States. And therefore, the United States of America was officially dropped on the world scene. There was no longer a United States of America. We're not united. We're just here. So now how are you going to run the country if we're not a United States Republic? It was decided by the Rockefellers and the wealthy aristocrats of the country that now that there's a civil war is over and we no longer have an official United States of America, what are you going to do with the millions of people who are left? They're going to want to eat, they got to work, and they got to have children. So what are you going to do? There is no longer a republic. So what they decided to do is take the people that were here and put them into a corporation. They called it the United States Corporation. There was a company. And so since 1870s, there is today, we are a corporation. We are a company. And that's why in the Army, they have company C and company this and company that. And the CIA guys tell you don't drink when you're working for the company. And I'm on company time, company, because that's what the United States is today. It's a corporation, a company. And incidentally, because we are a corporation, Obama did not show his birth certificate. He didn't want to show his birth certificate. And the fact of the matter is he didn't need to show his birth certificate. He said that, and it was true. He didn't need. It was one of the true things he ever said. Well, he said, I don't need to show my birth certificate. And he didn't. By law, it was not required of him to show his birth certificate. Why? Because it's only by law he has to show a birth certificate if he's the president of the United States of America. That is a requirement. But he's not the president of the United States of America because there is no United States of America. There is only a United States corporation. Yep. And so the corporation head does not have to be born here. We got Japanese and Chinese and Africans and all kinds of people in this country who are heads of corporations. Little corporations, medium, big corporations, they're heads of corporations. They're presidents of a corporation. That doesn't mean they have to be born here to be head of a Ford Motor Company. They don't have to be born here. It's just a company. As long as you pay your taxes and live by corporate law, you don't have to be born here. You can own a corporation. And so Obama was just the head of a corporation. So he's not the head of America. He doesn't represent the United States of America. He represents a company. So the
Obama was just the CEO of a corporation formed in 1871 in London, England.
That's right. Exactly. A privately owned company.
Yeah.
And we have all of our young people joining the military to go out and fight for America. They're fighting for a privately owned corporation, a company, not even in America. The corporation is merely connected to the British Corporation, Maritime Admiralty Corporation. It's just business.
In fact, if you go a little further, you can find that if you go to Dun and Bradstreet and you check on every one of the government agency, as an example, take the Internal Revenue Service. I have the corporate charter, which is formed in Delaware in... gosh, I forget the name now, the date. It's right after 1913. And this says in Dun & Bradstreet, the Internal Revenue Service is registered to do business as a collection agency for
the Federal Reserve. Yeah. And there was a time when the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue corporate headquarters were in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was the home office for the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue. Why? Pirates of the Caribbean. Remember ABC, Disney making movies of Pirates of the Caribbean? Pirates were nothing more than a bunch of thieves in the Caribbean. And where is Puerto Rico? In the Caribbean. Because we know from history that the pirates, the actual real pirates of the Caribbean, were all over the Caribbean robbing anybody on the sea. And therefore, it was decided among the pirates to pick one island in which whatever they stole, they could put on that island in their name. And that's where we get the banking system. The banks were set up to take whatever the pirates got and put it on in Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, if you were a pirate and you set up an account in Puerto Rico, anything you stole, you put it into your account there. And the idea was that there is a very powerful syndicate. There's a very powerful criminal organization. And anything you put into that Puerto Rico will not be touched, even though there's no honor among thieves. But if you steal somebody else's stuff that they stole, they will throw you into prison or kill you. And so all the pirates realize they need a place to stash their stolen goods. So wherever they steal, they bring it to Puerto Rico. And they set it up there into a banking system. And so that's where we get the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's why ABC, Disney, it makes movies about the Pirates of the Caribbean, because they are probably one of the biggest criminal organizations in Hollywood, period.
Disney.
Is ABC, Disney. I know all about Disney and ABC, and the people who worked there. You talk to them, which I have over the years, and all of them say it's like working in Nazi Germany. SS, Gestapo, everything is watching you. You're they're watching everything you do, and you have to abide by all the principles and laws and regulations. And it's really like a totalitarian fascist outfit called ABC Disney. Disney himself would turn over in his grave if he saw what's happened to his beloved Disney company. It's an incredible story.
Isn't Disney part of the underbelly, like of the Illuminati? Can we talk about this? Or
yeah.
America
was founded by Europeans. Almost everybody who came here originally to set up the United States of America came from Europe. North, East, West, and Southern Europe. Today, anything that happens in the North, East, West, or South is news. NEWS, North, East, West, South.
Wow.
That's where we get the word news. And so anything that happens in the North, East, West, or South is news.
Wow.
So therefore, in Europe, there was North, East, West, and Southern Europe, and that's where America's people came from originally. But in Europe, even before the Roman Empire, during the Roman Empire, and even after Rome fell, even today, there was a population of people, massive population of people living in Europe. And they already were living in Europe. They already had their own governments, their own laws, their own regulations. They were European culture. And that European culture we refer to scientifically today as a Celtic or Celtic Druids. Mm-hmm. It was a Druidic group of people that came here from Europe. And one of the most important symbols in the Druid system of laws and regulations, the Druids were everybody. They were the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the city council. Anybody who had an important position in society was a Druid. And one of the most important symbols in Druidism was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand, Mickey Mouse with his magic wand, and orchestra leaders. And then symphonic orchestra leaders using the magic wand to, you dance to their music, not what you want. The magic wand. Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of holly wood.
Wow.
And that's why today in Hollywood, they are making magical movies, magical stuff with computers and all kinds of magic in Hollywood. We even talk about the magic of Hollywood.
Yes.
But what most people don't understand is that it's a use of words. When people like myself talk about the magic of Hollywood, I'm not talking about the dazzling movies and all the stuff you see on the screen. No, I'm talking about the occult, mystical, magical system based on sex, on drugs, on rape, all these dark, religious, dark stuff going on in people's homes in Hollywood. And the motion picture people know all about it. Everybody in Hollywood seems to know that if you get involved with Hollywood, you're getting involved with organized criminals at the top of the world. These people are using children. They're buying and selling children for sex. They're buying and selling women. They're buying and selling anything they can make money off of. And they are using their magical system, which is a druidic magical system, to promote their magic all over the world. And so people go there, just sit and watch, and they are giving the Hollywood their money to be entertained. It's an incredible story of what's actually going on today in Hollywood. It's an extraordinary story of betrayal of the human race. It's a druidic system. And incidentally, the Druids used to call themselves in Europe Hebrews. The people who were Druids, Gentile Druids, they called themselves Hebrews. So today we have Hebrews running Hollywood, Jews running Hollywood.
Yeah,
and one of the Jewish, it's an incredible story when you start breaking all of this down, and you have to live in Hollywood for 60 years and be in the culture for all these years and talking to all the top people who finally begin to see what's really going on here.
Right. So is it satanic? Because I know you're saying that who really runs the world is
it
somebody
is satanic. Yes, yes, it's very satanic. That's the problem. So many humans do not realize what satanic means. They don't understand the implications. There are spirits. We know because we have all kinds of knowledge about ghosts, poltergeists, things which you go bump in the night, secret spirits. People like all you got to do is go into the Caribbean and see the demonic rituals on Haiti and see people under the influence, like the exorcist and that kind of thing. Demonology. We are surrounded by spirit entities. And these spirit entities have come from somewhere out there, and they're not like us. That's an extraordinary story when you start breaking down where did we humans come from and what is our connection with out there.
Right.
You ask any child, any Christian child, where is God? Do you believe in God? Yes. They don't ask you, what is God?
Right.
Nobody knows. But where is God? The children will point, he's out there.
Exactly.
If God's out there, I hate to tell you this, that's extraterrestrial. He's not born in Ohio or Florida.
Or Jerusalem. Yeah,
he's out there.
Yeah.
Do you believe in angels? Oh, of course we all believe in angels. Do you know what an angel is? No. Then you believe in angels? Yeah. Where are they? Well, they're out there with God. They're extraterrestrial.
Right.
Yeah. And so you begin to see that we humans are being influenced by something out there. And it's not the kind of God you think.
That brings me to my next thought, though, that we kind of see now that there are people behind the curtain running the show here. But are the people behind the curtain here actually the boss, or are they getting their orders from somewhere out there?
Yes. They are nothing more than getting their orders from a higher source, and that higher source runs the earth. That higher source, we talk about God is over the whole earth. Well, he's not the only one over the whole earth. There's an opposition to God in the universe. I mean, God is simply the word dog spelled backwards. And if you take a D, as in David, take the letter D and put it in front of the word evil, becomes devil. Devil is evil and God is good. And so it's just words, but the words are based on something that we've always known, that there is an evil in the world. It causes wars and violence and drug addiction and alcoholism and breaks up human families and destroys people. It's been here from the very beginning, and we know that. We understand that. And we do the best we can while living under the domination of some kind of a spiritual matrix, so to speak, that's over us. It's a power that's over all of us.
Yeah, what is that spiritual matrix?
Yeah, and we say that. We say things like that, like the world is a stage and each of us play his part. So each one of us is playing a part in the spiritual matrix we call the world that we live in. And something else is going on and somebody's watching us. They're monitoring us. They're interacting with us, but they're from out there. And so people who are spiritually inclined, we say that God is with us. And God, they'll leave everything to God. What is God besides dog spelled backwards?
Yeah.
And so that's why many years ago I was told, always define your terms.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher, define your terms. When you're talking about God, maybe what you're talking about God is not what I'm thinking about God. And maybe other people are hearing and they have their idea about God. So define what you're talking about when you say God. So I'm explaining to you my vision of God. My vision of God is some sort of a computerized knowledge, a mind, some sort of a computerized mind, because that's what we are. We are a computer. We have all the electrical system. We have it in our spine. We have thousands of miles, we're told, of electrical, nerve endings around our body, and they connect with the computer. And we are a biological computer because we sweat, we get hot, our body gives off a frequency because our body is a battery. That's why when you go to court, if you're found guilty, they're going to put you as a battery. They put you in a cell because that's what we have. A battery is a cell. And so it's a fascinating story about how we got here, who we are as humans, where we go when we leave here, and what we're going to experience when we leave this world, and where did we come from to start with. And then begin to look at, which I did back in 1959, some 59 years ago, how does the world work?
Right.
I mean, people live with going to court. In laws, they have to go to court. Why do you go to court?
Right.
You play basketball on a court. You play tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Okay? And so the whole idea is that law is a racket.
Yes.
It does not represent anything of any intrinsic value. Our legal system is set up to control business. And this is what the mafia, if they're gonna kill you, they will tell you, I like you. We're dear friends, but I've been given the order to whack you. So it's just business. I'm just doing what I got to do. It's just a piece of business. And so that's what the government we live under today.
So if it's all business, and we don't know who really controls the world, and there is alien intervention going on. Some of us might not even be completely human.
That's right.
Then what can we do? What can we do? Do we just have to be automated and go with the flow? Or is there something that we can do to impact what's going on? Because clearly things are heating up, right?
Yep, they are. And that's a very important question because there's a really good answer for that. We have to, first of all, figure out how we became here, how we got here, and who we are. When I say we, who are we as humans? Where did we come from? The question is very simple. Where were you 5,000 years ago? Mm. When you leave here, where are you going to be 10,000 years from today? Where are you going to be? Mm. Were you already here in the universe and now you come here as a human? So, the question has always been, are we a spirit which has taken on a physical body, or were we a physical body that's inhabited by a spirit? Which are you? Spirit or man, humans are either spirit-filled or they are human bodies with the spirit in them.
Right.
And so when you go back to the first chapter in the Bible, it tells you a totally different story than what we've been told by the church. And if you want to take the Bible as a guide, it's an extraordinary story that's being told that the people do not know. It's not saying the things that the churches are telling you. It's a very encoded symbolic metaphor. Mm-hmm. It's an encoded story. We hear about Bible codes. Yeah, well, there's a really encoded story in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, telling you how we got here and who we are. I talked with the one of the chief rabbis in America back in 1960, and he said to me, I was talking to him about, as a kid, I was 19 years old, and I was talking to him about how we got here. Like, what are you talking about? God created us. And he said, the Bible in the Old Testament does not say God created man. That's not what the scripture says. It doesn't say God created man. I said, well, that's what I've always been told. I said, well, that's what you've been told, but that's not what's in the scriptures. Believe me, I'm a rabbi, I can tell you. There's no place in the Bible that says God created man. Go back and read the scripture correctly. Go back as a story. Go back and read it correctly.
Isn't it, let us make man in our image? So who is our, right?
Yeah. Who's our? I thought there was only one God. Well, that one God, when he's creating man, says, come, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And then Christians will say, well, there it is right there. God said, come, let us make man. No, go back and read it correctly. Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. We've come here, we look at man, the Neanderthal creatures, or these creatures that are roaming the earth, and for being creatures, they're not that pretty, they're not that great. Let's take one of the females and procreate with her and take some of our genetics from our line coming from out there and put it into her. And let's see what she gives birth to. So she gives birth to something like humans. So therefore, that's telling us whoever created us, we look like them. No, they look like us. It's the same thing. They look like us because we look like them. Therefore, they can come now into our world and roam around with us and control us and do all kinds of stuff with us and have fun with us because we think they're just like us. No, they're not just like you. They look like you. They act like you. They dress like you, but they're not like you. They're not from this world. They have come here from another world, and they are able to operate today freely because nobody realizes we look like the creators who created us. They said, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. There's a whole story there in the Bible about who created us and where they came from. And I could talk for hours about
so if people are aware, if people are awakening, if people say, I want to know, instead of having their nice, neat world, right, tied up in a box, the people that you might encounter, the beings that you might encounter that are not from here, you might sense that they're different, even though they look like us, because they have a different frequency.
That's right. That's why they're in power and you're not. Because they know things you don't know. They can do things you can't do. They have perceptions and minds not like yours. They can see the future. They are so powerful they can cause the future. They're connected to something that's out there, and you don't want to know what it is that's out there. And whatever it is, they're very powerful people. And that's why they can dominate the earth, because they're not human. They've not come from here.
So you're talking
their image and likeness.
And so we're talking about the Bible, and I can't help but bring up that the Bible talks about Pleiades, since we're talking about out there. Can you speak to anything about that?
Yes, absolutely. I've been looking at this for so many years and talking to so many professional people, Jesuit theologians, Jewish rabbis, all kinds of people. And it becomes obvious once you understand there's an encoded story. For instance, in Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in the original text, in what we call Hebrew. In point of fact, there is no Hebrew language at all. We use that term. We say, well, in Hebrew, it says this is not. There is no Hebrew. There is a Phoenician Canaanite religion. Phoenicians and Canaanites in the Middle East is where we call Israel today. Where Israel sits today was actually Cana, the land of Cana. And Cana people in Cana were Phoenicians. This gives us our word phonics and phony. So any language coming out of Phoenicia was phony. Oh God, the world is phony. But once you understand how this stuff works and where it came from, what we call today what was I going to say?
We're talking about Pleiades.
Yeah, the creator. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, but that's not what it says in the Phoenician language, or what we call Hebrew. The Phoenician language is spoken by Canaanites, but the Canaanites, we call them Hebrews. And so when the Hebrews are speaking in their language, we think that it's Hebrew language. No, it's not Hebrew language. It's a Phoenician language that Hebrews speak. We call it Hebrew because we don't know any different. No, they are Hebrew, not the language. And so that's like us today in America. We speak American. No, we don't speak American. We are American, but we speak English. So get it straight. So they are Hebrews, but they don't speak Hebrew. They speak Phoenician.
Aramaic.
But if you go back to the Jewish Bible and read Genesis 1:1, it doesn't say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Because in the Hebrew, so-called Hebrew language, God is El. E-L is God in Hebrew. And so you would expect, if you're reading Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew, it would say, in the beginning, El created the heavens and the earth. That's God in Hebrew. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say El created the heavens and the earth. It says Elohim.
Yes.
Elohim is like putting a comma and an S on an English word. You have C-A-R, car, comma S is cars, more than one. El is God and Elohim is a plural. So in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth is correct.
Jordan, as you are saying this, I'm reminded of another group that is formed off of the Raelians. Are you familiar with the cult of Rael? Are you familiar with that?
Of course.
Their whole intelligent design document that's exactly what they do. They describe it in those contexts.
Yeah, and the Bible, that's what it says. That's what the Bible says. If you're going to take the biblical account, well, that's what it says. And so then when you understand that God is El, but it says in Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is God in the plural, more than one. This is why in the 10 Commandments, the first commandment was, I am the Lord your God, and I will not have strange gods before me. Because the idea is that God is saying to Israel, I am the Lord your God. You picked me. Because Elohim means more than one God. So it's as if there were 15 gods. There were multiple gods, say 15 of them. And you decided you like this one here, so you pick him. And you want to follow him because you like him. And he says, all right, I will be your God. Now we're making a deal between us. So it's just like today when a young man is going steady with a girl and they decide to get married. She picked him or he picked her, and there's a deal between the two. And the deal is understandable. Yes, there are other young men out there in the world better than I am or wealthier than I am, but we have a deal. So I don't want to catch you messing around with any other young man. because we got a deal. You picked me and I allowed it, and I picked you. So
Say, Jordan,
is what God is saying. Yes.
Okay, so it's interesting you mentioned that. There are those who say that they're the so-called Anunnaki that Sitchin describes, this Enlil and Enlil. I get them mixed up, but there are people saying that in the Old Testament text that it's actually more than just one God, depending upon the book that you're reading. In some books, it's the one who is the guy that's the smiter and the killer of women and children, and then you have the other one who is a tolerant, quote, God of love. Do you hear anything? Does this sound like? Are you familiar with that?
I work with Zechariah Sitchin, and at one time he and I were business partners. I had him sign a contract with me to work with me, and I was a business partner with him. And therefore, I was able to travel with him and sit and talk with him wherever we would go. And I talked with Zechariah Sitchin. I could tell you many, many things that Zechariah told me in private that would be startling. If people heard, it would really cause a sensation.
One nugget. Give us one nugget. Give us one.
It's the kind of thing that I don't want to say something because it was given to me in private, and it might cause a lot of trouble for other people if I were to tell. But Zechariah Sitchin and I were very close because we were in business together. And
I think it would be easier, maybe it would be easier to understand also if we go back to the word God. Where does the word God come from? If we read the Sumerian tablets, we find that the word God was given a meaning it was never meant to have, because it means great leader. Yeah. And then again, that is pronounced in that part of the word God. And then if you look at the word angel, that's angel, that means messenger. So messenger I had an angel come to me with a message from God. I have no problem with that, because they had a messenger come to me with a message from our great leader. That makes perfectly sense.
Of course, and I totally agree with you. I understand what angel, El is God, and angel means a messenger from God.
Yeah. But go back to this part about Sitchin and how you had conversations with Sitchin. That was getting good.
I used to get Zechariah Sitchin to speak at big conferences and help get his books published and help send him around the world. I mean, I had a real big deal with Zechariah Sitchin, where we spent a lot of money on him to send him around the world to do his work. And one time I got Zechariah to speak up in Portland, Oregon, at a very, very prestigious institute, to speak before a large audience of scientists and important people. And all the big shots from Hollywood were there. Anybody was there at this big conference. And it was a conference of scientists and philosophers talking about the world we live in. So I got him to speak there. And on the Sunday, at the end of the conference, there was a big banquet. And at the banquet, Zechariah and I sat at the head table. Excuse me. And I asked him, after dinner was over, everybody was up and roaming around talking with everybody. And so I sat there with Zechariah at the head table, and I said to him, I said, Zechariah, I've spent a lot of money on you. I got a couple of questions I'd like to ask you, and I'd like for you to be honest with me and tell me the truth. I said, every time I turn around, you've got a new book coming out. All the time, you've got books coming out, and I'm just so amazed. Where are you getting all this information? It just keeps coming, more and more keeps coming. Where are you getting this information? And he said, it's automated writing. Well, I said, automated writing? Yes. Does that mean someone else is overtaking your spirit and causing you to write? Yes. It's what you call inspired writing. Well, inspired means someone's breathing in you. to expire or inspire.
Inspirare.
Someone else is controlling what you're writing.
Amazing.
So it was basically inspired writing, and there was a bigger conversation that went on about who was inspiring him and where is he getting this from. And I said, if you're being inspired by someone else and it's automated writing, then do you know who's using you to write? And he said, yes, I do. And he said, but keep in mind, they couldn't just pick somebody off the street to be a writer. They picked me, obviously, because all my life I've studied the culture. I've studied the writings of the Sumerians. I was an expert on the writings to start with. And I know how to read those ancient texts. And so that's why I was contacted. That's why I'm doing what I do, is because I was prepared for it. And so there's more to Zechariah Sitchin than meets the eye, because he was a very intelligent man, very well-read and extraordinarily well-informed about what was going on in the world. And I asked him, I said, do you know who's leading you, who's inspiring you? And he said, yes. And I said, is it the Anunnaki you talk about? And he said, yes. And I said, then do you have a one-on-one experience with the Anunnaki? Yes. And I said, oh, really? And they're the ones that are leading you to write? Yes. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, that Zechariah Sitchin is actually in contact with the higher forces in the universe. This higher knowledge is coming from somebody who's leading him to write. And it's not because, and I'm not saying that, well, his books are just propaganda, but from the spirit world. No. He is reading the texts themselves, and someone is leading him to understand the text correctly. And so I have the highest of admiration for him. That's why I put so much of effort and money into hoping to promote him, because I realized this is a very interesting man. Yeah. And I've learned a lot about him that I don't want to talk about in public. But he's a very important man in my book.
He got criticized heavily for some of his...
yeah, I know he did.
What do you feel about that?
I think that there are people who want to, because I've had it happen to me. If you go on the web and look up my name, you will find out all kinds of nefarious, horrible stuff about me. I'm working for the government. I'm working for the CIA. I'm a conspiracy theorist. And I'm doing all this stuff for the government. I'm working for the Masons, and I'm all this and that. It's people who are jealous of what I do and want to bring me down. Yep. They want to destroy my name, destroy my work, destroy my reputation, to steal from me, to take everything I own and get rid of me, because I'm talking about things that somebody does not want talked about.
So speaking of getting rid of you, this is a burning question for me. You've been doing this for 60 years or so, right? You are a conspiracy analyst.
Right.
What was it like trying to stay out of the grasp of these people who wanted to take you down? What was that like for you?
It was horrible. It's terrible. It was the most tragic lifestyle that I would not wish on a dog, the life I've lived, because I have had so many people come in and say, oh, Jordan, we just love what you're doing. It's so sensational. Let us help you. We want to help you. And I said, and of course, me being innocent, I said, yes, I would like to have somebody help me, because I'm broke. I don't have anything. I don't live by myself. And it would be nice to have younger people who want to help me. Well, let me help you. I will do all of it, anything you need. And I said, well, I need a website. I don't know how to make a website. I don't know what to do with a website. Oh, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that. And so all you need to do is give us your information on your website. Give us your username, and your password, and then we'll take over your website.
Oh, my goodness.
And then, so I give it to them, and then they are going to run my website for me. And they do. They take it, and they go in the back of my website and put they change the ownership to their name.
Wow.
And then they take all of my products, and they take it and have them, all my products, my books and videos, and have them all copyrighted in Washington, D.C. in their name.
Wow.
And they sell everything, and I get nothing.
Wow.
And they tell me, you're just an old man, so shut up. We'll do what we're doing. They've told me that.
That's
You're going to get out there and make us some money. Go out there and make us some money. So they're selling everything that I've done. And so that's, one person after the next. And I had another person come in, and they said, oh, this is terrible. Why would anybody do that? That's terrible. Let me help you. And so I work hard to get my website back. We have to, I have to show who I am to the big carriers. And I have to send information to get my website back that was taken from me. And then I finally get it back. It finally comes back to me after I've proven it's my website and my name was on there to start with, and the people that took it from me. And so I get it back. And then the new people say, oh, let us do this for you because this was terrible. And so I give them my website, and they do exactly the same thing. They go in and change about information on my website, go into the back end of my website, put their name as the owner, put their name as a contact, and they own it. And now I've lost my website again. And now they all take all of my stuff and all the things I produce and copyright them. And now they're selling my stuff.
Well, how symbolic is that, though, for what they do to us at birth, right? Making us a corporation. It seems so symbolic. And especially, you have spent a lifetime digging the deepest secrets, and it still happens to you.
That's right. Because I'm older, and I'm sick. And other unscrupulous people come into my life, and they see in me not a teacher. They don't see me as a teacher. They don't see me as a valuable person. They see me as a way to make a quick buck off of this old man, because people listen to him. People want to support him and buy his videos and books. And so why don't we get rid of him? Get rid of him. He's an old man, and we'll sell his stuff. And we'll call the shots, and we'll take everything he's got and leave him broke with nothing.
Well,
you've a lot of money off of him.
Right, but you've survived all these years, and I suspect that there's more of this story for you to share with us. And I'm just wondering if I can just inch back just a little bit to Pleiades and the reference to Pleiades in the Bible, because I'm still trying to, get to God. I understand that in the Zohar, there's the 72 names of God, and the holiest name of God is the Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton? Did I say that right?
That's right, Tetragrammaton.
Right.
In all Jewish synagogues around the earth, you will find that in Judaism, all synagogues realize that the name of God is so holy, according to the Jewish religion, is so holy that you cannot use the name of God. Right. If you use it, that's using God's name in vain, because you're not supposed to use his name. But in order for you to talk about God without using his name, Judaism has given you a substitute word that means the Almighty God. And that substitute name is Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton, you will see in all synagogues, you will always see on the altars in synagogues the sunburst. And it's got all the sun spokes around the sun, and it's a yellow sun in all synagogues. And you will see inside the sun 4 Hebrew letters.
Yes.
And it's called Tetragrammaton. This is a substitute word for God that's okay to use.
So it's Y YHWH. Right.
Tetragrammaton.
Right.
Tetra is 4, Gramma is letter, like A, B, C, and D is gramma. Tetra, 4, gramma, letters, 4 letters. Aton, A-T-O-N. Aton was the sun god of Egypt.
Wow.
The Aton, the tetragramma Aton. That's why it's in the middle of a sunburst in all synagogues, because it's the sun worship of tetragramma Aton, the 4 letters of the Aton, the sun. So it's a very interesting story about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All 3 religions come from a common source. They were all 3 part of a far more ancient religion that existed. All 3, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, came directly from Hinduism. It's a Hindu religion that dominates the world today. The 3 major religions of the world today are based on the Hindu. The Hindus were the first, and they gave to the world Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Most people don't know that.
Then the question is, where did Hinduism come from?
From the spirits, from the Anunnaki, from the what we call the angels, the sons of God, the Elohim, because they talk about the Elohim in Hindu. You know, the gods are very important in Hindu. But when you talk about the gods, you're talking about actual entities that exist in the spirit world, and they are dominating you. Your brain is like a computer. Your spine is all the wiring of the computer, and your body is a biological battery. And therefore, you are a walking computer. Well, there must be some kind of a Wi-Fi in the spirit world where they can communicate with all of us, and they can put it into all of us to see something all of a sudden together, because they are Wi-Fiing all the computers we call the people of the world. And so that's why we all get ideas all of a sudden. Everybody wants to, hula hoops. Somebody came up with a hula hoop, and 1 week later, everybody on the earth has got hula hoops.
Right.
Everybody's into hula hoops. You got one thing that comes, and 1 week later, everybody on the earth is doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's like the 100 monkey theory, that one monkey does something, and somehow or another, all the monkeys in the world pick up on it, and they will do the same thing. Mm-hmm. No, I think there's something in humans that we are connected to, something out there. Mm-hmm. And they put it into our minds and into our spirits to do something. So we're all going to be Democrats, or we're all going to go to the football game, or we're all going to change and become Republicans.
But what about we who don't want to do that? What about we who have that drive, have the desire, like you, to jump the track a little bit? I mean, what is there for people like that?
Okay, let me explain it to you. I use the illustration of a young man that's being drafted into the military, and he is on a bus going to the military base. He's already been accepted in, and now he's on his way the first day to a military base. You're in now, whether you like it or not. And so when you get off the bus on the military installation, there's a commanding officer that is there to welcome the new recruits. When you get off the bus, you say to him, the officer in charge, because I'm going to be in the military, I've got to be in the military anyway, I need to go to Washington, D.C., and I need to work in the Pentagon. And he will then have someone take you out behind the barn and bust your face and knock you out and give you a couple of black eyes to teach you a lesson. You don't tell power where you're going. Power tells you. And you may go to Washington, D.C., but they'll call you. You don't call them. Mm. That's the way it works. Well, spiritually speaking, that's the way it works in heaven. You don't decide to do anything with God. God calls you. Mm. And therefore, it's like, and I've said this before, it's as if you were a soldier standing on a rapt attention on the field with 500 other soldiers. and everyone is waiting for the general to show up. And you see the limo pulls up and the general gets out and everyone's standing at attention and he's walking around and the general's walking around looking at the troops. And then he points to you and said, yeah, come here. He's picked you and he says, come here. Go get in the car and sit there and I'll take care of you later. Go sit in the car, and dismisses everybody else. Therefore, the general has picked you. That's why in the Bible there are two separate words. One is discipline, disciple, which is based on the word discipline, and the apostle, which is a Greek word which means one who is called out. So if you hear someone and you like listening to them, you want to listen to them and learn from them, you're disciplining yourself to listen and learn. So you are a disciple of that person. Yeah. But the word in Greek is apostle. There's a different word that means apostle. An apostle is one who is called out. The bottom line is if you're a disciple, you pick the teacher. Right. An apostle is the teacher who picked you. So this is why we say we're inspired, because it's not you deciding you want to know. It's not you that wants to know. You need to understand God is calling you. Yes. It's not that you want to do this and you want to know that and you want to do this. No. Right. The Great Spirit is calling you. That's why you want to know.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You were mentioning the 100th monkey here, and it obviously is that there is some form of a connection between everything, like in the Matrix. And who do you think actually put this Matrix together for all of us to live in?
Very, very important question, yes. I think it's what Zechariah calls the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are the ancient gods, the ancient ones that we call the gods, the spirits, the demons, the devils, the angels. They're good and bad. The Anunnaki, we are like them. They made us to be in their image and likeness, so they make us to look like them and be like them. Well, we are like the ones who created us. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Image and likeness. Image means we look like them. They made us to look like them. But likeness means we will like them. Well, they have wars among themselves. They are self-centered and egotistical. Whoever these spirits are, well, that's what we are. We're just like them. We're egotistical and warring, and we want to do things the way we want to do them, and we have conflicts with other people, just the way the angels have conflicts among themselves. Some are good and some are evil. That's the way we are. And some are loyal to the divine presence and some are not. Some are disloyal. And so that's what we've got in our world. Some humans are very loyal to decency and honor and goodness, and most people aren't. So that's why we are made in their image and likeness. And so I think that that's what's going on, that somebody created us a long time ago in their image and in their likeness. Image and likeness. And that's who we are. We look like who created us.
Yes.
And of course, if you go back again to Genesis, when it says, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And then later on in the next scripture, Genesis 2 or 3, it says, man has become as one of us. Look at him. Look at him today. He's become like us. There's nothing he can't do. Anything he puts his mind to, he can do. He's like us. I mean, he can go to the moon. He can create atomic bombs. He can do time travel. My God, look what you created. You created a mess because these humans, they can do all kinds of things. They're even threatening us. Look what you've done. Man has become as one of us. He's as crazy as we are, right? And so that's what is going on, is that we look like the gods who created us. Now, I take it a step further and say, if that's the case, if we look like the creators who created us, and they are the Anunnaki who have come from out there, they're extraterrestrial, does that mean that what's out there are all over the universe, that there are other Earths like ours, and that there are other...
And you mentioned, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute, if I may. You mentioned technology. Now, you know, I have been called. I don't know why yet, but I have been called. And I am attuned to energy and frequency.
Yeah.
Regarding technology and frequency, I believe that you met somebody called Thunder White Cloud, Gary Pratt, who works with holograms.
I think so, yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about holograms and frequency and how it may benefit us to work with that?
Well, I can tell you how it has hurt us, because we use symbols and emblems, and we get tattoos, people getting tattoos all the time, never ever realizing when you're getting a tattoo, you're being tagged, like we tag cows. Right. With the tattoo. We burn it into a cow. What do you call that when you're burning it? Branding. What is the word? Branding. Branding, right, exactly. We're branding them. And when you're getting tattoos on your body, you are agreeing to allow the spirit to go through that man's mind, and he's going to do some kind of a tattoo on you, and you've been tagged. So what if you put the holiest name of God on you? Yeah, well, then, the holiest name of God. Which God? Which God are you talking about? The Tetragrammaton. Yeah, well, that's not holy. There's nothing holy about that. Tetra is 4 letters for the Aton. The holy God of Israel is the Aton, the sun god. I don't see anything holy about that. Okay, so I have one question. Is there anything hopeful for us, for we who are here, and you're still here too? What is there for us? Do we just watch TV and drink beer at night and get up and do it all over? Tom's like, yeah, that's good for me. I mean, or do we just, find meaning in our life and surround ourselves with loved ones and just get through it? Or is there something more? Yes, because there's a term in the Bible that Christians have used for years, a big word that all the Christians use, and people generally speaking throughout the world use, that have no idea in the world what it really means or where the word came from. The word is faith. You're supposed to have faith. Faith does not mean what Christians think it means. Mm. And what Christians are saying when they say you have to have faith is because they don't understand what they're talking about is credulity. Mm. You are credulous. You are hoping that something will happen. That's why if you go to a new church, people will say, oh, are you a believer? Mm. Yeah, I'm a believer. Believer? I don't care to be a believer. I want to know. Mm-hmm. The CIA is not a place for believers. They don't want to believe that they know you. They want to damn well know you. Right. They want to track everything you're doing. So there's no discussion when they're discussing you. They know who you are. They know where you live, and they know what you're thinking. Yes. They don't believe anything. They know. So when you go to a church, you'll call the believer. Why? Because you don't know what you're doing. You just believe. So faith to Christianity and religion means that we hope that something will happen. We hope that there will be a better situation. We hope that God will do this. We hope. I don't have any hopes at all. I want to know. And so when you understand what the word faith means, a way to understand what faith means is when you get out of bed in the morning, you don't look down to see the floor. You just get out of bed and don't even think about the floor. Right. That's what faith means. Go out into the world and do whatever it is you're doing. Just go out there and do it. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about whether this is right or wrong or whether this is going to be God or not. No, just go out and do what is your spirit wants you to do. Mm. That's what you call having faith, because the floor has always been there. Mm. The floor is there every morning when you get up and you don't even look. You just get up and the floor is always there. Well, God is always there. The spirit is always there. So no matter who you are, when you get up in the morning, you just go do whatever it is you're going to do and just know God is with you. There is a great spirit in the universe that watches you every day, every hour. There are, and the scripture talks about the watchers. There are entities here who we call spirits or angels or poltergeists, other unseen world. They're here and they're watching you. They are the watchers. And the mere fact that they are watching you implies that they are connected to the God, the Creator, so that whatever they see goes directly through them like a computer to the Creator. So they're watchers. They're watching you 24/7. And so therefore, truly understanding faith means to just know that God is there. You don't have to question it. You don't have to wonder if you're going to do this, and I just hope this will happen. I hope that will happen. No, faith means just get up and go do what you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, that's what God wants you to do. And if you're not supposed to know, you won't. But if you're supposed to learn and know, knock and it will be open. Seek and you will find. Mm-hmm. Ask and it will be given. Mm-hmm. Meaning what you're really looking for is something in your heart you want to know. Well, ask and it will be given. You don't read it in a book. You get it from a teacher, someone who has been there, someone who, you cannot be a tour guide to a place you've never been.
Exactly.
So if you're going to be a teacher, you have to have already found out how the world really works and what the world is all about, and how the great spirit that we call God, whatever that great spirit is, how it affects you, and the connection between you and it and the angels or the spirits or the angels or the extraterrestrials, whoever they are. How does all of this actually work, and how does this affect us? And this is what I've been trying to tell people for so many years. Don't try and figure anything out. You're not smart enough to figure it out. And if you are really interested to know something, you want to know, just understand it's not you. You're not so smart that you want to talk to God and you want to know this and that. No, God has called you. He's put it into you to want to know. And it's as if the Spirit is kind of leading you. You want to know? Yeah, come on in. Keep going. You'll know. Knock and it will be open. Seek and you will find. Ask and it will be given. And so if you're really interested to know spiritual things, it's because God is calling you. He didn't call the people next door to you.
Right.
And the ones who are not called will never know. They're not supposed to know.
They don't even know that they could ask to know, right?
But there's a scripture in the New Testament where it says that Jesus was approached by a group of people, and they said to him, "Why is it that you speak in parables? You're always speaking in strange parables and symbolic language, metaphors. Why don't you just talk to us in plain language?" And he said, "I talk to you in parables because I don't want you getting the truth. I don't want you to know. So I speak in such a way that those who are supposed to learn, they will see. And those who are not supposed to learn will not see it. If you are spiritually alive and spiritually, intellectually awake, you will begin to perceive. You don't look. You'll have eyes that don't see, ears that don't hear, and with your heart, you don't get the sense of it. So I speak in such a way that those who have eyes to see and ears to hear have a heart that can pick up on what I'm actually saying as a symbolic story. So the whole story of the New Testament, as far as I'm concerned, is a metaphor. It's a symbolic story. Excuse me. It's a symbolic story. And if you don't understand the symbolism, then you're not going to understand the real story in the New Testament. And so Jesus is not, in point of fact, in the New Testament, Jesus is not an actual man. He's not an actual figure. Jesus represents the symbolic story. The symbolic story in Christianity is the war between light and darkness. Light and darkness are always at war with each other.
I'm so glad you're saying this. right now, right, people are saying it's the apocalypse, it's the awakening, it's the shift. Do you feel that darkness and light are at war, like more than ever before?
Oh, God, yes, absolutely, because we're coming to the end of the Piscean age. We're coming to the end of the age. It's almost here. And the word in Greek is age, is aeon, but it's mistranslated by the Bible translators in the King James. The King James in Matthew, the last chapter of Matthew, it says, Jesus said, go forth into the world and make disciples and teach the people, and I will be with you to the end of the world. I will be with you to the end of the world. So now we got people running around talking about the end of the world. And Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and all the rest of these Masonic cults are talking about the end of the world.
Didn't he say to the end of the age? I think he said to the end of the age.
That's right. It says, but go read it in the Bible. It says in Matthew, the last chapter and the last verse says, Jesus said, go forth, multiply, and go forth and teach the world, and I will be with you to the end of the world. That's what it said, end of the world.
I had an interpretation where it said end of the age, so I could.
Yeah, because the word end of the world, the word world was mistranslated, as I just said. It's a mistranslation of the Greek word aeon. A-E-O-N is mistranslated in all Bibles as world.
Wow.
No, aeon is a Greek word for age. It has to do with the astronomical.
That's what I was talking about. Didn't he say age?
That's right.
Isn't that the original translation?
Actually, original said age, but the mistranslation.
They mistranslated it, right, as a
King
world.
James says world.
Right.
So when you're talking about the end of the world, you're not talking about the end of the earth and the end of life in the universe. You're talking about the end of a particular period of time.
Like the Mayan calendar that people said was the end of the world. It wasn't the end of the world. They just said, no, we're just doing a calendar.
The end of a calendar period. Now we have a new calendar period.
Right. It was just an age. Yeah.
So that's the way it works. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of an age. And so we are now, each age is 2,150 years long. And so for each one of the constellations is an age, and each one lasts 2,150 years. And so the way to understand it is if you went down to the equator, and on the morning on the equator, look eastward, and you will see the sun come up. And so the sun rises in that set of stars, and that set of stars is called Taurus. That means the sun is rising in Taurus. Or 2,150 years later, if it's Aries, the sun is now in Aries. After Aries is Pisces. So the sun is now rising every day in Pisces, the age of Pisces, the age of two fish. That's the symbol for Pisces. And that's why Jesus feeds his people with two fish, because the Bible shows that Jesus is not a man. It's not a particular person. Jesus is a metaphor for the Son, S-U-N. So that's why, and the Son is only one, so he's the only begotten Son. We don't have 5 sons, we only got one. He's the only begotten Son. And he is our risen Savior. Of course, the Son is your risen Savior. If it doesn't rise, we're dead in 3 weeks. The earth is going to freeze over. We're all gone. No more energy, no more warmth, no more life, because God's Son has died. He's gone. And so you need to understand that there's a whole metaphor here, because Jesus said, I am the light of the world. So he represents the light. That's why we call him God's Son, because there's only one Son. He's the only begotten. There's only one Son. And who owns the sun? Not people on the earth. We don't own the sun. So theoretically, we could say God owns the sun. Well, it's God's Son, the light of the world. Of course, the sun is the light of the world. So what you're talking about is an encoded story in the New Testament talking about the war between God's Son, the light of the world, our risen Savior, and the prince of darkness. At night, it gets dark. And in Egypt, the prince of darkness was known as Set. He was the prince of darkness, Darth Vader. A war in the stars between the sun, who walks across the sky in 12 steps. In the beginning, in Egypt, when the sun came up in the morning, he was called officially Horus, Horus, Horus. Horus was the god who walked across the sky in 12 steps. We do the same thing. Alcoholics have a 12-step program. Children going to school have a 12-step program, starting the first grade and ending the 12th is a 12-step program. So in Egypt, when the sun came up, it was called Horus. And every so often, Horus would become a new number. It was Horus of the first step. His first step was to be born. A little later, it was Horus of the second step, Horus of the third step, Horus of the fifth step. And when it hit Horus of the sixth step, is directly overhead. And Horus now becomes known as the Most High God. Why? Because it don't get any higher than high at noon. And now Horus is going to go down eventually and die, because he's going to go meet his evil brother, Darth Vader. He was Luke Skywalker. He walks across the sky and meets his dark brother, the devil, the prince of darkness. So it's nothing more than astrology. The New Testament of the Bible is astrology. It's an astrological hidden story right in front of you, but people don't see it. So when you hear the Christians praying that one song, that in my Father's house are many mansions. No, as a mistranslation, like everything else you believe is mistranslated, misunderstood. It's not in my Father's house are many mansions. Go back and read it correctly. It's in my Father's abode are many houses. Not in my Father's house are many mansions. Houses and mansions are a place where you live. In my Father's abode is where you live. And so where does God live? Well, God lives out there. Oh, really? So in my Father's abode out there are many houses. Yeah, houses of the zodiac. And that's why we today have a word we call the kingdom of God, God's kingdom. People have no idea in the world what God's kingdom actually means and where it came from. We humans put other life forms into collective groups. We say that fish are in schools, cattle are in herds, geese and birds are in flocks, dogs are in packs. Animals, the different kinds of creatures on the earth, we put into collective groups. What kind of life forms on the earth do we humans say are in a kingdom? What do we say is in a kingdom?
Royalty.
And a group of baboons is called a congress.
That's right. That's what we've got. There's a bunch of baboons. Yeah. Congress. But what is it that what kind of creatures do we put into a kingdom? Animals. The animals is called an animal kingdom. Why? Because where do you find animals? They're in a zoo. It goes back to the Greek word for an animal, a zoo. And so that's why we have an animal kingdom in the heavens. It's called in my Father's abode are many houses, the houses of the kingdom of God. The kingdom is the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is the astrological signs of the zodiac. And there are 12 of them. That's why Jesus had 12 apostles. The 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 great prophets of the Bible, the 12 this, the 12 that, is all based on God's kingdom, the 12 animals in the zodiac. And so that's why when you pray, we're told it's the Lord's Prayer. It's not the Lord's Prayer. The Lord told you when you pray. We say it's called the Lord's Prayer. No, the Lord told you when you pray, you say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let your kingdom come and let your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. What you're doing is you're saying to God, let your kingdom of animals, the animal kingdom in the zodiac. Don't you see the animals in a zoo? Comes from zodiac. Let your kingdom come and let your will be done here on the earth as it is in heaven. So what you're doing when you're saying the Lord's Prayer for you to pray, you're saying that you acknowledge that God has a kingdom. There's a kingdom of animals in the zoo, the zodiac. And you are saying to God, I accept that you have a kingdom, and I'm asking that you let your kingdom come and your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. To which I would say, well, that's very good of you, because his kingdom is going to come whether you like it or not. And it's going to have its control over the earth. It's going to come to the earth, just like it is in heaven. So the next one will be Aquarius. Aquarius is coming, and it will come whether you like it or not. And whether you're ready or not, there's a 2,150-year period coming. It's called the Age of Aquarius, and it's going to get here whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
Whether you agree with it or not, it just don't matter. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. So you're saying, what you're saying as a Christian is, I agree. Let your kingdom come and let your will be done on the earth. Well, it's going to be done on the earth. It will. It will. And so then when you understand that as far back as India was dominating the world with religion thousands of years ago, and they ruled the world during the age of Taurus. Taurus is the bull. That's why the Jews were worshiping the golden calf. Golden is the sun in the age of Taurus. Taurus the bull, Taurus the calf. Holy cow. Right?
Holy cow.
And so it's the holy cow, Taurus the bull. And that's why today, even today in India, they have cows and bulls walking around freely because they won't harm a cow in India, because it represents their God, the sun, God's sun, the light of the world in India. Why? Because the sun is never worshipped as God. Most people use the term sun worship. It is never used as a God. People all over the world have said the reason why the sun is used because it represents the powers of God. It represents the presence of God. And that the sun is like an eye. It's like your pupil in your eye is perfectly round, so is the sun. So it's like God's sun, the light of the world. He's watching you. He's seeing you. And the sun represents all the qualities of God. If you're intelligent, which he is, he's very bright. And so that's why he's very bright, and he can see the whole world. And also he gives you energy. And the Egyptians said that the sun was a pure energy, which in fact it is. It's pure energy. And the Egyptians said, if the sun did not give his energy to us, we wouldn't even be here. We'd all be frozen and dead. But if the sun's giving his energy to us, then as God's son, the light of the world, he's giving his energy to us so that we might continue to live and eat and grow food and wheat grow. So they said God's son is giving his life so that you might live. He died for you. He's dying because he's giving his energy away. So he's dying for you. So the Egyptians said, God's son has died to give you life. He's died to give you energy to live.
And speaking of energy, I'm wondering if you could speak just a little bit about people who work with energy, people who are working with frequencies. Like, how is this technology that certain people are learning or remembering interacting with what's going on or what's to be?
Well, that's how radio works. That's how television works. That's how the world works. Energies and electrical frequencies.
Yes.
And we are an electrical unit. We're a biological electrical unit.
Right.
As I said, and that's why if you get in court and you get sent to jail, they're going to put you, because you're a biological battery, they'll put you in a cell.
Right.
Because that's what a battery is. They'll put you in a cell, and then they will sell, S-E-L-L, they will sell your energy to corporations. And the big corporations of the world make money off of you when you're in prison. Most people don't know that. Big companies. That's how Walmart got to be so big. It makes money off of human bodies that go to prison. It's a very interesting world that we live on, how banks work and how money works. You need to have people in prison or killed to make money. It makes money. And that's what keeps our world operating, is big money. And how do we make big money? By big wars.
Right.
So we've got to have another war.
So, Jordan, there's that document called the Sovereign Document that I've read about that allegedly you sign in blood and your lawyer signs in blood.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing as the back of your Social Security card.
Okay.
On the front of your Social Security card is a set of numbers. Why? Because you are a corporation, you are a company, and you are employed by a larger corporation called the United States Corporation.
Right.
And you are an employee. So if you're working for Ford Motor Company or General Electric or some big corporation, when you go to work, you must wear a tag that shows security and shows everybody else you are on the job, and you are lawfully here working for General Electric.
Right.
Why? Because you have your tag that identifies you. You understand?
Right.
That's
Yes.
what the Social Security card is. It identifies you as an employee of a corporation called United States Incorporated.
Right. But can this, allegedly this document, that if you sign it tells the people that own the corporations that if you hurt me, you're not going to get any money. Is that true?
It probably is. That kind of makes sense to me. I've never heard of it.
Okay. All right.
But the point I was making is that if you're working in a corporation, you have the identification card.
Right.
But on the back of the Social Security card, on the bottom, you will see a series of numbers. Okay?
Okay.
A series of numbers. Let me show you something maybe you never thought of before.
So I'm just going to bring in one of our colleagues, Thunder White Cloud, and we'll keep listening to what you're saying. Though, please talk about the Social Security numbers. I'm very interested. Yeah,
and take the back of the Social Security card and look at the numbers below. And they're usually in red. And the numbers are in red. Sometimes they're in black, depending on the time, depending on how old it is. It used to be in red. The numbers were in red. Why? Because the numbers on the back of your Social Security card are in red because it represents your blood, your body, your flesh and blood body is in red. And why? Because you are a security for the stock exchange. You're the security for the corporation called the United States. You are working for a company, and as long as you show up on time and do your job and make your money and pay your taxes and pay all the fines and tickets and fees and all the rest of it, then they're making money off of you. The company's making money. So therefore, when you retire, which means you quit, at the end of the day, you quit, you retire, and you go home and you're retired, you're not going to work anymore, you get something called Social Security.
Right.
It's because you are a security for the body social. The body social is the United States Corporation. It's called the body social. And so you are security for the body social. So when you retire and you go home, you get your paycheck. It's called Social Security.
Wow.
They're giving you back a little piece of the action that you have made for them all this time because you were a security for the company. As long as you show up every day and do your thing and pay your fines and tickets and fees and pay your taxes and all the rest of you just keep paying, the corporation is making tons of money off of you. So it was decided by the guys in the banking world that when you retire, so that you don't cause any problems, they'll give you Social Security. It gives you enough money to pay your rent and eat and go shut up.
Barely, right.
And just stay alive And don't cry about the world that you live in. Just be happy you get money to pay your rent and buy food. Because if we don't give you some money, if we don't give you a piece of the action back to you in social
You'll cause
security,
trouble.
we're going to cause a revolution in this country.
Right?
People don't have food and they don't have a place to eat.
Right.
And they don't have a place to live. You're going to cause trouble, big trouble. You're going to have a bloody revolution. So give them a piece of the action. Give them a little percentage.
Yeah.
Give them a little percentage. And keep them quiet and give them a lot of beer and make sure they got plenty of pretzels and hamburgers and food.
And beer, yeah. Jordan, I'd like to introduce you to Thunder White Cloud, Gary Pratt. You've actually met before. Thunder, this is Jordan Maxwell.
Hello there.
Jordan, old friend, how you been?
I think okay. We'll find out from one day to the next. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you.
You know, you were the start of my esoteric journey. I'll say that. It was 1981, and I got a cassette someone handed me by a man named Jordan Maxwell. I said, never heard of him. And so I sat and listened to it, and my life has just been magical ever since.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was very kind of you to say that. Because I just do the best I can, hoping it'll land somewhere and somebody will hear something and will learn something.
Yeah, well, you are well.
What I'm trying to do is just wake people up to the world they live in and how it works.
You are well known.
What we've been talking about here is basically the so-called cabal that is kind of thinking they run the show. But let's take it one step further. What if it gets to the point where they see that, oh boy, we're going to lose this game. There is something they have up their sleeve, and that might be the fake alien invasion. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know it's been a lot of things flying around on that fake alien invasion lately.
Yeah, the man who made that famous, that idea, was born with a man that was a dear friend of mine, Norio Hayakawa from Japan. Norio Hayakawa was well known in the UFO field. He was speaking at all the conferences that I did. And Norio came up with the idea. He's the very first person I ever heard talk about it many years ago. Norio was going around saying that he felt that there was going to be a fake invasion. And that, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch it happen. But it's not going to be real. It's going to be a fake invasion to make it look like extraterrestrials are landing here. And it's going to frighten the whole world so that we have to get together as one world, come together as one world to fight off the alien invasion that's come from another world. And so I said to Norio one night after a big conference in Pasadena, all the speakers, the guys went out, the main speakers went out to have dinner, and I went with them because I was one of the speakers. And Norio was explaining that to the group, that he thought there was going to be a fake invasion and we're all going to get frightened and we're going to have to join the United Nations and get into the conspiracy of the one world government to fight off the evil invasion. And I said to Norio, I can take the same facts that you are basing your theory on. I can come up with a totally different idea with using the same facts you are. I said, suppose there's going to be an invasion. It's not fake, and there's going to be an invasion. How would the government that has control over the whole world, the Illuminati masters, how are they going to deal with that invasion when it comes? Because there's so many more people on the earth than there is the Illuminati. How are they going to handle us when this invasion happens? Well, they could prepare us. They could prepare us for this invasion by giving us Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and all these space movies, preparing us so that when it happens, we probably won't even care. We've seen that in a movie. So if there's something lands on the White House lawn with extraterrestrials, that'll be interesting. It might be in the news, but it's nothing to get frightened over. We've seen this stuff for years in movies. And so it's preparing us as humans to accept something that's coming, whether we like it or not. So I'm saying that there may not be a fake invasion, it may be a real one that's coming. And the powers that be in this world know they're coming. And they're trying to prepare us on the earth. So maybe it's not a fake invasion. Maybe it's going to be a real one. And I tend to think that's what's happening. A real, legitimate, de jure, and real invasion is coming. And I will go back, and one of the major reasons why I believe it, I have had too many experiences in my own life that tell me that's what's happening. Did you ever hear the story I tell about my girlfriend that I met when I first came to California?
Yes.
And I met this girl. I was 19 years old. She was about 17 or whatever. And I met her in a restaurant. We had breakfast together, and then afterwards we took a walk, and we started meeting each other in town. We started meeting each other because I was only about 2 blocks from town, and she lived about 3 blocks on the same street. She was 3 blocks further. And so she was about a block further from my house to town than I was. So when we would walk home, she knew where I lived, but I never followed her home. So I knew she lived on the same street, only a block away. I just didn't know where exactly. And so one night she came over to my place and she said, "My father wants to see you. He wants to talk to you." And I told her, I remember saying, "I'm not interested to talk to your father. I have nothing to say to him." And she said, "My father wants to talk to you. He's got something to tell you." So that sounded interesting. So I said, okay. So I went with her. When we got there, she had a younger sister, about 10 years old, and she's about 17. And so the 2 girls sat on the floor, and her father and myself sat on the sofa. He's at one end, and I was at the other. And we're just talking. He's talking to me about who I am and what I'm doing and why I'm here in Los Angeles. And do you like what you're doing here? Do you have a job, et cetera, et cetera? My daughter tells me she met you, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm feeling a little bit better about meeting him because he's just talking about normal things. Mm-hmm. And then he said to me, he's sitting on the opposite end of the sofa, and he said, "Remember when you were back in Florida and your father built a back porch? Remember when he did that?" And it's kind of scared me because I'm thinking, how does he know where I came from and what happened to me?
Right.
And so he said, "Well, did your dad build a back porch? He built a new back porch, didn't he?" And I said, "Yes, he did." And he said, "And also one night you were supposed to be in bed. You were about 8 years old, and you were supposed to be in bed, but you went out on that new back porch, and the back porch smelled funny because it was green lumber. At night, it smelled funny." And he said, "Remember how you picked some of the wood with your thumb? You picked it and were using it like a tooth pick. Mm-hmm. Remember when you did that with the green lumber and you were smelling it and picking your teeth with it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "And you talked to God, didn't you? When you were sitting on the back porch, the moon was full, and you talked to God, didn't you?" Mm-hmm. And I was scared. It really frightened me. I was a 19-year-old kid, and I had no idea in the world who this man was and how did he know this.
Right.
And he said to me, "You talked to God, didn't you?" And I didn't say anything. And he said, "I'll tell you what you said. You said to God that you wanted to do something with your life that meant something. You wanted to make something happen with your life. You wanted to do something important with your life. Mm-hmm. Is that what you said?" And I said, "Yes, that's what I said." And he said, "Well, we heard you. We were there. We heard you. And that's why you're here. Why did you come here?" I said, "I don't know why I came here. I come to California because I had to. I don't know why." And he said, "That's right, because we brought you here. We brought you here because you did ask God to do something with your life. And so we're going to give you something to do with your life. But it won't happen till the very last part of your life. We have something for you to do." You were born at a particular time, which would give us time to train you, to prepare you for what we want you to do.
Wow.
And the last part of your life will be a very important time in human history, and we have something for you to do. And I said, what is I'm supposed to do? He said, it doesn't matter right now. You'll learn, and by the time it gets to the last part of your life, you will know what you're doing and what you have to do and why we brought you here. And so that changed my life.
Wow.
And I've had other experiences like that. That was something that really blew my mind, that this guy would know all about me.
Yeah.
And I was brought here to meet him. And then one time, back in 1991, 92, I was giving a lecture at a UFO conference in Pasadena. I was giving a conference in Pasadena, and I was a keynote speaker on Saturday morning. And I spoke for 2 hours extemporaneous. That's the way I speak. It was extemporaneous. And so a week before the conference, I went with the guys who were putting the conference on, the conference heads. And they called and they said, you want to go with us? We're going to go look at the hotel if you want to go with us. So I did. I went with them. And so we looked at the hotel and spy out the hotel and see what it's going to look like. And then the one of the guys putting the conference on said to me, he said, what do you need to do? Whatever you're going to do, you're going to be the first speaker. What do you need? You need a projector? You need a blackboard? What do you need to do what you want to do? And I said, all I want is a table and a chair on the stage. I want to sit before an audience like a teacher. And this way I can put all the paperwork and everything I want to talk about. And I want to talk to the audience. This is a teacher. That's all I want to do. Just want a table and a chair. And so he said, all right, then what we'll do is we'll put a camera behind you, a video camera behind you. And we'll have a guy sitting on the stage right behind you. And he's going to have a video camera. We'll have closed circuit TV. So that when you're talking about a document, hold it up so he can zoom in it behind you. He can zoom in on it, and people in the audience can see it. And so that worked out perfect. It worked very good. And the guy that was sitting behind me on the stage that next Saturday, when I did it, after the conference was over and people were leaving, that guy came over to me and he said, my wife and I would like to have you come over for dinner tonight. Could you do that? And I said, sure, of course. So I went to their home. It was a beautiful condo in Pasadena. And he and I are sitting in the front room talking about the day's events and stuff going on with UFOs and all that. And his wife is in the kitchen fixing dinner. And she comes out and she says to him in front of me, she said, have you told him yet? And he said, no, I wasn't going to tell him till after dinner. And I said to him, I don't like surprises. Tell me what? And he said, well, I'm going to tell you something. I've told the story many times. My wife has heard me tell many people this story. Now I'm going to tell you a story that I've been telling for years. He said, when I was 17 years old, I'm 50 years old now. I just turned 50 a couple of weeks ago. And he said, but when I was 17 years old, I was living on the East Coast in New England. And during summer vacation, I was thumbing a ride on the highway to go north to go stay with my cousin for a couple of weeks. And he said, an old man in a pickup truck, an old man in an old pickup truck stopped and picked me up. And he said, and he was smoking cigarettes, cigars, pipe, rope, anything that would burn. He was smoking. It stunk terrible in the truck. And he said, and he began telling me everything about my life, everything about me. He knew my family, my sister, my mom, my dad, and his work. There was nothing this old man did not know exactly correct. And he said, I was fascinated listening to him telling me all about my life. And who is this old man that would know so much? And he said, when he let me out, he said, everything I have told you now was to get your attention and entertain you. Now I'm going to tell you something important. after you're 50 years old, you're going to be on the other side of this country. And one day you're going to find yourself sitting on a stage with a man at a table with papers. And you're going to be sitting behind him with a camera. And that camera does not exist right now, but it will then. And he's going to have a camera so that when he picks up the paper, you'll be able to see it with the camera and show it to everyone in the audience. And he said, when that happens, and you're on the stage with this man sitting at the table, you tell him that I put him there. He didn't just by chance happen to be sitting at the table by chance. I put him there. He has something to do for me, and I put him there. You tell him that. And so when he told me, that scared me. And I got up and walked out. I walked out of his place and I started walking down the street. And he came out and followed me. And I said, what in the world are you talking about? 35 years ago, somebody told you I was going to be sitting on the stage today with you? What is that all about? I don't know. All I know is what he told me to tell you. So he said that you are being guided to do the work you do, and that he put you in that chair today. He's the one that put you on the stage today. So wow. I'm just saying, I've had too many experiences like that tells me somebody else is in charge of the life we live on this earth. And whatever it is I'm doing and you're doing, you're supposed to. So don't question it and have faith. And you don't need to have faith. Whatever you're doing, you're supposed to do.
Just do it.
Yeah. So don't even think about it. Don't even worry about it. It will work because that one has called you. You didn't decide to follow. You didn't decide to follow. That one called you. So it's not like you decided to check and see if there's a floor. No, you just get up and do what you do. And so that's the idea of real faith. Just get up and do what you're supposed to do because somebody else is in charge. The idea, of course, being that God's in charge.
Right.
If that's the case, he's always been in charge. He'll be in charge before you were here and be in charge when you're gone. Always, God is in charge. So don't worry about where you're putting your feet. Don't worry about what you're going to do from one day to the next. That's what faith means in the Greek word. Faith means to just get up and do whatever it is you're going to do because God's in charge and you will do what he wants you to do, whether you like it or not.
And then we who are sensitive, right, sensitive to our calling will take a different path than like the corporate hamster wheel.
That's why it says that God picks you. You didn't pick him. You didn't pick to decide you want to know about God. No, God called you.
And God called you, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I know. Well, just remember that you've been called to do what you do. It's not that you just got up one morning and decided to do something. No, you didn't decide nothing. God has decided for you. And if the people next to you and next door to you don't understand what you're doing, they're not supposed to. Because like the scripture has Jesus saying, when they ask him, why do you talk about the things you do?
Yes.
Why do you use these terms that are so difficult to understand? It says, Jesus said to them, I speak the way I do, and I do what I do, so that you will not get the sins of it and get saved. You will not know what's really going on. I don't want you to know. Implying that, Jesus loves everybody. No, the scripture says, he said, I don't want you knowing. I want you to stay ignorant and ill-informed and drink your beer and do all the silly things you do because that's who you are and that's what you love, so that's where you're going to stay. Right. You like your gambling, you like your beer drinking, you like your movies and your entertainment, your ball games and all that other silly stuff you're into. Good, because that's all you're going to get. Why? Because God can see your heart. And the spirit and the spirit world can see who you really are. They know who you really are. No matter what you may say, the Great Spirit knows who you are. It knows your DNA and knows everything about you. And it will decide if it wants you. You don't decide you want it. Exactly. You don't decide you want to know what God is doing. God knows who you are and he's called you. Right. So just know that if you've been called, just get up each morning and do whatever it is you got to do. And don't worry about it. You've been called.
Well, I'm so grateful that you were called and that you listened and that you're here. And I hope you'll come back and see us again. We're just going to formally end the show and the recording, but we'll still be here together to talk after the show. Guys, you have any last comments for our amazing guests?
If I have a comment.
Yes, of course.
My last comment is, if you would like to follow what I've been doing for 60 years, I have a website today that I actually finally have myself. And I have control over it, finally. And it's called Jordan Maxwell Show. Only 3 words. Only 3 words. Jordan Maxwell Show. The Jordan is like the Jordan River, Jordan. Maxwell is Maxwell. JordanMaxwellShow.com. That's my website. Excellent. And when you go on Jordan Maxwell Show, you will see, first of all, you will see a little banner that says Jordan Maxwell Research Society. Click on it. It will take you to another website that I have called Jordan Maxwell Research Society, in which I have taken all the documents, audio, video, all kinds of pictures and documents, and put it all on my website, explaining all the dark stuff you've never been told. And so you have to join it. It's a joining operation. So go on Jordan Maxwell Show and join my research society called the Jordan Maxwell Research Society website.
We've got that on the site right now, Jordan. Got some slides up with that as well.
Absolutely. So people will be finding you. And I just want to thank you so much for the amazing wealth of information you've given us. And I hope you'll come back and talk with us again.
I'm delighted to, because there's so much more I want.
There is so much more. I'd like to get into the secret society stuff, but that will be for another day.
Oh, yeah.
But for now, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us on Broadcasting Malta. And